1798 is the dividing line for the past and the present in Revelation 17. So if you want to know the powers that are being talked about, you see what happened before 1798 and what happened after 1798, and then you'll start to line things up. So the beast was prior to 1798, but it is not because of the deadly wound, but it shall ascend. And when it ascends, it will go into perdition, and those who dwell on the earth will wonder. That's all the world wonders after the beast when the deadly wound is healed. So sometime in the future, sometime after 1798, the deadly wound will be healed, and the beast will have a resurrection. Now here's the interesting thing. This is the Antichrist beast. Think about this. Christ had 3.5 literal years of ministry, and at the end of his 3.5 years, that's the time that it took for the principles of his government and kingdom to be fully demonstrated. At the end of the 3.5 years, his character is fully demonstrated while he's hanging on the cross, but he dies, he suffers a deadly wound. The papacy, which is the Antichrist power, have you ever wondered why God allowed the papacy to rule for 1,260 years and persecute the saints for that long? Have you ever wondered that? Well, it's interesting. They have 3.5 prophetic years. Christ has 3.5 literal years. Antichrist has 3.5 prophetic years. And at the end of the 3.5 prophetic years, the papacy receives a deadly wound, just as Christ received a deadly wound. And just as Christ was resurrected, the papacy will be resurrected. There's one other interesting point, though. Do you remember what happened just before the deadly wound, just a few years before? French Revolution. It's described in Revelation 11. It's a beast that comes from the abyss. It's a satanic power. Why did the French Revolution happen when it did? Because France was the nation of all the nations in Europe. It was called the eldest daughter of the papacy by historians. It supported the papacy more than any other nation. But eventually people said, because the papacy misrepresented the character of God, eventually people said, if this is what the papacy is representing and if this is who God is, we want nothing of him. And so atheism developed out of the false religion of Catholicism because God was misrepresented. And when the French Revolution took place, you had complete anarchy. And it took 3.5 literal years for Christ to reveal what the principles of heaven are like, and it was seen when Jesus is hanging on the cross. If you want to know what heaven would have been like if Satan had defeated Christ and had gained control of heaven, all you have to do is look at the French Revolution. Total anarchy. So Robespierre has this great revolution, liberty, equality, and fraternity. It sounds great. Liberty, equality, fraternity. Well, it wasn't liberty, equality, fraternity for the 40,000 people who died at the guillotine. In fact, Robespierre, who started the revolution, he died at the hands of the guillotine himself. They started by killing Louis XVI, and eventually Robespierre was killed because people were turning on each other and everyone was clamoring to get to the top, just as Satan was trying to exalt himself to be above God in heaven. And then you have the deadly wound just shortly after that, led by France, who's now the atheistic power. But let me just say this as well. Ellen White says in Education, page 228, that the anarchy that was seen in the French Revolution will be seen again in this world just before Jesus comes back. So when you see what's happening in the world today, keep that in mind. So it's very interesting. The papacy, the reason why it had 1,260 years is because that's how long it took for the principles of Satan's government to be fully seen. So then you get the deadly wound, and now, after 1798, the papacy is in the past as far as its power, and it's in its wounded condition after 1798. And this is where verse 10 becomes much clearer. Verse 10 says, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Now remember, based on verse 8, the beast was, it is not, it shall ascend. 1798 is our dividing line for the past and the present. That's the deadly wound. The beast was, it is not. Now you say, well, there's 7 heads. Those are the 7 kings. 5 are fallen. 1 is, and the other is not yet come. So who are the first 5 kings of the 7 heads? Well, if the 5th head was the king that received the deadly wound. That would be the papacy. If you count it this way, you start, and here's the other thing. This beast has the mouth of a lion, which is Babylon. It would make sense then to start with the same first kingdom that we see in Daniel 2. So the first head is Babylon, the second is Medo-Persia, the third is Greece, the fourth is pagan Rome, and the fifth is papal Rome. That takes you to 1798. And then you have the sixth head, one is, and then the seventh head is not yet come. So who's the sixth head and who's the seventh? Well, the sixth head, and this is my understanding of things, Revelation 13 shows us who the sixth head is, because after the papacy receives the deadly wound, the United States of America comes onto the scene. So the United States of America is the sixth head, and then the seventh head says, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Who's the seventh head? I think verse 12 shows us. It says, the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet. That's future. The 10 kings are the kings of the earth, the universal kings. That's the one world government. When the kings of the earth unite with the papacy, where Protestant America, it was the sixth head, but it will unite with the kings of the earth to cause all the world to worship the first beast whose deadly wound is healed. And when you have the seventh head, then you can have the eighth, which verse 11 talks about. So if you've never studied Revelation 17 before, that may give you some idea, but that's where we are in the scope of history. So there's these 7 heads. By the way, the head represents a king and a kingdom. So you have the 7 kingdoms. So we have the 5 heads. They're not popes. The dividing line for past and present is not 1929. It's 1798. So you have Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, pagan Rome, papal Rome, deadly wound, United States of America comes up out of the earth. It starts off as a lamb, like a Christian nation. Then it speaks as a dragon. When it speaks as a dragon, you have the kings of the earth uniting with America. They receive power 1 hour with the king, but they haven't received this kingdom yet. They make war with the lamb, and the lamb overcomes them. That's the New World Order. The New World Order is when the kings of the earth unite with America and the papacy to form a one-world system of government and worship to make war with the Lamb. It's globalism. It's uniting of church and state, all the kings of the earth uniting together to unite against God's people. So the Bible is clear on what's coming. I mean, when you put Revelation 17 with Revelation 13, it starts to become very clear that there is going to be a one-world government that unites with the papacy that will lead to its resurrection. And when that happens, there will be a Sunday law where all the world wanders after the beast, and they will do so to make war with the Lamb. But the good news is the Lamb will overcome them.